Okay, so you know that feeling right when you start to have those doubts about your relationship.
Uh,
Like, is this the right thing? You know,
oh, yeah, yeah, for sure.
am I where I'm supposed to be? Those are tough questions.
They are?
We're going to take a deep dive into this today, and we've got a great source that's got 5 tips for dealing with these doubts, and we're going to figure out what to do with them.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So the first tip, and this one seems kind of obvious,
Yeah.
is to communicate those doubts, right?
Right.
But it's not just about like blurting them out, in the heat of the moment. It's about
Yeah.
doing it in this like calm and open manner, which sounds great in theory.
Right.
How do we actually do that?
Well, yeah, I think, when you're feeling all those emotions like you were talking about, it can be really, really tough.
Hmm.
And I think one of the best things you can do is to really sort of focus on creating a safe space where you both feel comfortable being vulnerable. Right. Because that's what it's all about. Because if you don't feel safe, then you're not going to be able to have that open communication. So to do that, I think, one really helpful technique is using I statements.
Oh.
Right. So this shifts the focus from blame to expression. Right.
Hmm.
So instead of saying, you never listen to me, you could say, I feel unheard when I'm trying to talk to you about something important.
Right. Oh, so you're taking ownership of your own feelings rather than
Exactly.
pointing the finger.
Yeah. Yeah. And, it can also be helpful to really try to focus on the feelings rather than the facts. Right. So instead of getting bogged down in, who said what and when,
Right.
you can say something like, I'm feeling really hurt and confused right now. And that can just be a really powerful way to kind of open up the conversation. And the other thing that goes hand in hand with this is active listening. Right.
Oh, okay. Yeah, this source talks about that too.
Yeah. So it's not just about, hearing the words, but it's about really trying to understand your partner's perspective and trying to see the world through their eyes. And so, when we listen with empathy, we validate our partner's feelings and we create a deeper connection. And that can be so helpful even when you're disagreeing.
So true. So true. Okay, so communication is key. But this next tip is interesting. It's about focusing on the positives of the relationship.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of curious about this one because, when when you're in the midst of all this doubt,
Yeah.
isn't it more important to address the issues head on?
Yeah. I mean, addressing the issues is absolutely important. But here's the thing. When we're stuck in that negative headspace, it's like we see everything through these dark sunglasses, right?
Mm.
Everything looks a little bit dimmer, a little bit more negative. And so by taking some time to reflect on the positive aspects of the relationship,
Okay.
even small things, it can really help us to kind of rebalance that negativity bias
Okay.
that we might be experiencing.
So it's not about ignoring the problems. It's about
Yeah,
reminding yourself of why you're there in the first place.
exactly. And what's really cool about this
Mhm.
is there's actually science to back this up, right?
Oh, really?
So studies show that actively recalling positive memories with your partner can release oxytocin, which is the bonding hormone, right?
Okay.
And that can actually shift your emotional state, which can make it easier to then address those challenges.
It's not just some woo-woo feel good advice.
No.
It's actually rewiring our brains.
like a little brain hack.
That's so cool. Okay, so we've talked about communicating and we've talked about focusing on the positive. But now these next 2 tips,
Yeah.
self-reflection and addressing the underlying causes,
Right.
those seem really intertwined.
Absolutely.
But how do we know if the doubts that we're having are stemming from our own stuff
Mhm.
or if they're legitimate red flags about the relationship?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's where that honest and sometimes uncomfortable self-reflection comes in.
Okay.
It's about asking ourselves those tough questions, right? Like, am I projecting past hurts onto my partner? Or are these doubts surfacing a pattern of behavior that keeps repeating?
Right. It takes courage to be honest with ourselves, but it's so important.
For sure, for sure. So, okay, so let's say we've done that digging.
Yeah.
We've been honest with ourselves.
Right.
How do we actually start to address those root causes, whether they're personal
Yeah.
or relational?
That's a great question. And I think, it depends on what you uncover, right? So if it's a personal issue, maybe it's something like exploring those insecurities with a therapist
Okay.
or working on developing healthier communication patterns, right? If it's about the relationship, then it's about having those open and honest conversations with your partner, setting boundaries, and maybe even seeking out couples counseling.
Okay. Which brings us to that final tip, seeking outside support.
And I think, there's still kind of a stigma around therapy. A lot of people see it as a last resort.
Right.
But why is it so valuable even if you're not sure if the relationship is like,
Yeah.
totally doomed?
Well, I think one of the biggest benefits of therapy is that it offers this neutral space to process your doubts
Okay.
and to learn some really effective communication tools.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of like having a relationship coach in your corner.
Right.
And so you can gain insights into your own behavior patterns, and you can develop strategies for resolving conflict in a way that's constructive.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be so helpful for any relationship, whether you're, on the brink of breaking up or you just want to strengthen your bond.
It's not about fixing what's broken.
Right.
It's just about investing in the relationship,
Absolutely.
regardless of what happens.
It's about empowering yourself to create the relationship you want.
I love that. Okay, so to recap, the 5 tips that we talked about today are to communicate openly and with empathy, to focus on the positives even when things feel rocky,
Right.
to really engage in that honest self-reflection,
Mm-hmm.
to address those root causes head on,
Yeah,
and then to consider seeking outside support.
absolutely.
And what I'm taking away from this is that, doubt, while it's really uncomfortable, can actually be a catalyst for growth.
Absolutely.
It's a signal to pay attention
Yes.
and to learn and to create something even stronger.
So true.
So if you're out there dealing with some of these doubts in your relationship, you are not alone.
You are not alone.
And remember, this is a journey, not a race.
That's right.
Be patient with yourself. Be patient with your partner. Give
Yeah.
yourselves time to process, to learn, and to grow together.
And you know what? Even if things don't work out the way you hoped, you'll come out of this experience with a deeper understanding of yourself and what you need in a relationship.
That's such a good point. You've got this. You've got this. Whatever path you choose, I am confident that you will move forward with greater clarity and a deeper understanding of yourself and your relationship.
You got that?
We'll see you next time for another deep dive.
See you later.